Spain has a long heritage of olive oil that goes back many thousands of years, has always stood for quality. But historically, the sector, I think winemaking in Spain has always led in terms of technology. And I've been really impressed over the last many years to see the quest for excellence in Spain really come up in terms of leveraging technology and paying attention to those details of processing, harvesting, so forth, that really make the difference between a good olive oil, even a very good olive oil, and an excellent olive oil. And now Spain makes some of the best olive oils in the world. It's interesting about quality in olive oil because part of the challenge is to make good olive oil, but once you purchase good olive oil or excellent extra virgin olive oil, you have to treat it with respect. The enemies of olive oil are heat, light, and oxygen. And so if you spend a lot of money on a really fabulous Spanish olive oil and you put it above your stove and it's hot, you're going to degrade the olive oil. And so it's important to pay attention to, just as we're asking the producers to pay attention to quality and excellence on their side of it, we as chefs and consumers have to do the same thing. People often mention that extra virgin olive oil is expensive, and yet the same people will spend $25, $30 on a bottle of wine and finish it all in one night. So when we're thinking about the relationship between quality and price in olive oil, it's important to think about, first of all, you're going to use it over a period of a few weeks. Olive oil is best used in a short period of time, but there's a tremendous amount of value there. The other piece of the quality equation is I always encourage people to try to stock different olive oils. So Spain makes so many wonderful olive oils. Experiment with olive oils at a lower price point for basic cooking, and then for garnishing and really to bring the flavor up around food, to choose some of those more expensive extra virgin oils. As we think about American consumers over the last 30 years discovering wine and discovering olive oil, it's interesting to look at the parallels between those two. And now Americans think nothing of buying a whole variety of different kinds of wine to go with different kinds of food. And yet on the olive oil side, they look for just one olive oil that they use for everything. And that's, I think, a very limiting way to think about this. And so if you look at the Arbequinas and the Picuals and the other varietals in Spanish oil, they can be key in bringing out so many different interesting flavors in the food. And so you don't necessarily want to have 10 olive oils at home, but good to have 2 or 3 or 4 olive oils and to experiment with different varietals, different blends. It's a lot of fun, and it's a way of bringing out some real excitement in your food. One of the biggest trends in American cooking now with chefs and also home cooks is to feature more plant-forward cooking. What does that mean? More vegetables, more vegetable-centric, less meat. Not everyone is becoming a vegetarian, but certainly vegetables and legumes are becoming more popular, which is the historic core of the Mediterranean diet. And if you spend time in Spain and you have the great tradition of Mediterranean flavors and tapas and all those wonderful dishes, really critical to the flavor of those vegetable dishes, pulse dishes, and so forth, is the olive oil. And vegetables alone can be quite delicious, but paired with olive oil, the whole sort of plant-forward, let's say, Spanish olive oil kitchen is an area I think that is ripe for discovery for Americans. There's a lot there that we can learn from. In terms of plant-forward cooking and the Spanish olive oil kitchen, there's so many great examples to look at. One that I love is romesco sauce. So there you have a pounded sauce essentially with roasted peppers, pounded almonds, garlic, and olive oil. Very, very versatile. There's actually a tradition across the Mediterranean of these sort of pounded sauces that are based with olive oil, often with nuts, roasted vegetables, and that's a terrific addition. We should just adopt the whole repertoire for the U.S. It's a great set of dishes. When I think about the Mediterranean diet, the good news is that most Americans now know what the Mediterranean diet is, and they've heard about it. They know, they've heard good things about it, but in many respects, they go towards the cured meats, or they go towards the seafood, or they go towards the cheeses. We love Manchego cheese in this country and so forth, and yet it's the real plant-based core of the diet that we need to pay more attention to. That historically has been in the home, in Spanish homes, not so much in the restaurants, and that of course has been fundamentally flavored with olive oil. And so you want to be sure to have those good Spanish extra virgin olive oils in the house or in the restaurant to bring those more plant-forward flavors forward. And that's, as I say, that's really the heart of the Spanish Mediterranean diet. It's interesting to watch the progression of interest in olive oil in the United States, and particularly with Spanish olive oil. So many Americans now will say, I love olive oil, I use olive oil, but they'll use it just for specific applications. They'll put it on salads, or they'll saute with it. And yet, if you're a little braver and you try olive oil elsewhere, you see how delicious it is. Once you've had just good toast in the morning with olive oil, or eggs fried in olive oil, or using olive oil to dress any number of kinds of things, the results can be absolutely delicious. I love to give the example of cranberries. In the United States, for Thanksgiving, we have turkey and cranberries. So for everybody loves, I love cranberries, and they have it once a year. And it's because now that's starting to change, but there's an opportunity to think in a more open-minded way about how to use some of these things. Also, when you think about the use of, let's say, butter in relation to olive oil, a lot of people think, baking, I have to use butter. In fact, in the Spanish Mediterranean kitchen, olive oil is used in a lot of baking, very successfully. So I encourage home cooks and chefs out there to be a little brave and try olive oil in a wider range of dishes and recipes. The issue of creating change with our diets in the United States, because the American diet is not particularly healthy, is complicated, and it's very important, I think, for all the researchers that are working on health and olive oil to continue to do that research and continue those messages. But that alone does not get people to change their diets, and I think for that you need to bring chefs working with with nutrition researchers to discuss strategies. So, for instance, how do I use olive oil outside of for salads? Everybody gets using olive oil on a salad, but how do you really how do you make olive oil the default oil across your diet or across your cooking? And that requires the insight of trained chefs and food experts and so forth, and creating a sense of discovery. So I think it's those two messages have to be really paired together, the nutrition and the culinary.